ọmọ mi ayọ̀ mi mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run tó fi fún mi. You are a blessing, not a lesson. I can't wait for you to call me daddy. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so lucky that I got you. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so blessed that I...
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you back to our program, our series on parenting. My name is Riziki Ahmed from Hidayah Counseling. I'm a clinical psychologist, so welcome back to this program. I don't know if you remember what we talked about last week, and we were talking about the 3 to 6 year olds, and we said this is the first time that we are letting them out of our hands, the first time they are going to mingle with other children, and the first time they are meeting a teacher. And we said they have a lot of initiative in them. And I think I reminded you people, like, if we ask them to draw an elephant, all of them can draw an elephant. But later on in life, when I ask you to draw an elephant, you'll tell me you don't know how to draw an elephant. So what happened to that initiative? So I don't know if we actually looked at what we discussed about within our own homes with our children. Did we notice some of the things we talked about? And what are we doing about it? Do we have any questions from what we learned from last week? And have we put anything into practice? And I hope that it was of use to all of us and that we are actually doing something about what we learned. So today we are going to learn more, and we are still going to build on from what we covered last week. So we talked about the 3 to 6 years, and we said when they are now 3 to 6, maybe this is the time that we are most likely to be having another baby. So it's very likely that when they have gone to school, maybe we have another baby, and at times they feel a bit left out. So we talked about ways of incorporating them not to feel left out by the new baby, and reminding our visitors when they come to see the new baby not to forget that we have other children. If they are bringing a present, maybe to also bring for the other child. If they're asking about the newborn, they also ask about the other children. And we also try to do activities with our children with the newborn, so that way they feel a part of the family. So today we are going further. Now these children who have been 3 to 6, they have finished their kindergarten period, and this is like now is when we've been having many graduations happening. We know that these children, we are very excited. They have graduated from kindergarten. Every parent is very proud of that achievement. And these children now are moving on to the primary school. And primary school is a very interesting experience. So these children are moving away from a life where they were being pampered a lot in the kindergarten, and they are going to a school where they are going to be made to be even more independent than they have become. So we talk about the 6 to 11 years as a time where they have industry. They are very industrious. And this is when we know that their cognition has developed very well. This is when they are now going to learn how to do sums. They'll start doing more spellings. They'll start doing other subjects, science, geography, history. So we know that at this time they are cognitively ready to learn more. So this is the time where we know that their cognition is well developed. So what happens if we try teaching them some of these things at an earlier age? It's actually being unfair to them because they're not cognitively ready to learn that. As Muslim parents, this is also the time when we start teaching our children how to do the Salah. At 7 years, we are told to start teaching them how to pray. So why are we told at 7? Because this is when their cognition is well developed. They will understand why they need to pray, what they are saying in the prayer. And then now this is a time when we are told now we start really insisting on them now doing their prayers. So 7 years is a very interesting age. It's an age where the child can learn a lot. They are ready to learn a lot of new stuff. They are ready to learn anything that we are willing to put in. Remember, they started as a clean slate before they went to school, a white slate, and we get to write in there. So as parents, we usually complain when our children reach adolescent stage. My child is having problems. but we have the ones who have been writing in that slate. So even when you take children to the primary school, now we are having new things written in their slate in the new school. And we do know that we face many problems in primary school. I don't know, as parents, as we are seated there, what are the problems that we are facing with our children who are in primary school? What is the thing that most disturbs you about your child in primary school? What have you been doing about the things that you've been noticing in your child who is in a primary school? In whatever class they are in, are you satisfied with their the way they are performing in school? Are you disturbed by their performance in school? Are you disturbed by their social behavior? Are you happy with their progress, or are you having problems with their progress? If you're having problems with their progress, maybe as we continue talking, we'll try to find out what are the issues that these children are facing at this age. What do they want from us, and what do they want from their teachers? And are we also taking them to a school that we are sure they are getting what we want them to get? Remember the last time we talked about that a school is not just a building. Please, as a parent, before you take your child to any school, take the initiative to go to the school and read the atmosphere of the school, which is very, very important. Do we have teachers walking around carrying sticks, like they're going to beat them at any time? And then when we ask, we are told, no, we are not using it. It's just a sign. Yes, but is this sign necessary at this point? And as Muslim parents, we also understand that we're supposed to start beating our children from the age of 10 if they refuse to do Salah. So I always like to emphasize the fact is if they refuse to do Salah. We didn't say if they refuse to write. We didn't say if they refuse to do something. So it's actually emphasized if they refuse to do Salah. So it is still within this same age. So all what we are learning from this age is that this is a time where we start teaching, and a time where now we have consequences for the behavior that we are teaching. So this is the time as a parent, you can now impart the values you really want in your child. You can start teaching them the values that you want them to carry on into the future. So this is the time you as a parent, you have the leeway to put in as much as you can. This is the right age for you now to start putting in values that they will understand. In the earlier stages, they would not understand everything you're trying to explain. Now you can explain to them, I want you to do this because it has a consequence and this can happen. So when they are in school, they are actually, most of the times, they're going to be with a teacher, and they'll spend less time with you as a parent. So this teacher is actually there to teach them. We want them to perform well, and we know that education is very, very important. So for us, we actually are looking at how are our children performing in school. We are coming up with strategies for them to perform well in school. But the question is, if my child is not performing well, what is really wrong? So as parents, we need to ask ourselves, is it because we're not giving them enough time to do their work at home? Are they getting time to do their homework? When they go to school, are they able to pay attention in class? Is the teacher complaining about their attention span? Are they okay with the books that maybe they have? Do they have enough of the books that they need? Is the school syllabus actually teaching them what they should be learning at that particular age? Are they overwhelmed by what is going on? So the most important thing is always to ask your child, what is the problem? Why are you not getting this? What is not happening? Can I understand why this is a problem? And we don't just keep blaming them. I had a client who actually had a big issue because the parent always wanted them to be number one. They were very, very bright. So she always coming number one. But anytime she came number two, the parent would have a big problem with that. So she grew up believing that she was never ever supposed to be number two in anything. And this caused her a lot of problems because she became maybe very competitive in life, over competitive, and would actually get really distressed by not getting to be in position one. And she says that when she went to university, she really had a rough time because she only wanted to perform and get A's. And in university level, you can imagine having to work towards just getting an A throughout. meaning she didn't have time to do any other thing, she didn't have time to socialize, she didn't have time to learn anything else apart from just making sure she passed her exams. And this caused her a lot of distress, and also it would cause her to have maybe some stress with the other students. And she says she didn't even realize she was doing it, like she was just working towards these A's, until one time somebody asked her, why is it that you are so focused on just A's, and if you don't get it, you actually get sick and you don't look happy, and it really discourages you? And then that's when it hit her that this is right from her school days, when she was made to get only number one. So it's very important that we as parents realize that we can actually have children who are number one, but there are times when they'll not be number one, they can be number two, they can be number three. So we need to appreciate that they are still performing, and we need to look at the grade that they got. If they still got an A in English and they're not number one, they still got an A in maths, maybe they still did well, why do we still want to put our children down? And this is when our children now will develop what we call an inferiority, because at this age they have a lot of industry in them, they really want to learn, they really want to perform, but we are the people who will now make them not perform, to go back to having an inferiority complex, which they can carry on into their adulthood. So at times when we see people who have an inferiority complex, it could be coming from their school days, or maybe a teacher not being sensitive and maybe even calling a child bad words like, this child is not clever, you're lazy, you're this. So labeling children at this age is very dangerous, because once we start labeling them, that's when we lose them, and that's when we say now they are having problems in school. A child who is encouraged to perform, a child who is always told you're doing well, you can do better than this, I think you need to create more time for this, you're always finding solutions for how they can perform better, is a child who will definitely perform better. So I don't know, as we are seated here as parents, how many of us have been encouraging? Now we are coming to the end of the term, we're coming to the end of the year. So how many of us are just going to look at the report form and look at the position? Like, what position is my child? So the first thing we look at is the position. So we don't look at the grade, we don't look at maybe the comments the teacher has made, we only look at that position. If the child is not a good position, immediately our face changes, and then we actually react, and the child starts feeling, I'm only loved if I bring a good grade. And we have parents who put conditions on their children, like, we will love you with a condition. I will love you so long as you're performing well. I will love you so long as you make me proud. I will love you so long as I can talk about you to other parents on how you're doing so well. So we didn't bring children into the world just to get good grades. We want them to get the good grades. So we can sit with our children with the report forms, go through the report form with them, let them explain why they got that grade, why they think they are performing the way they are performing, then sit down and come up with solutions, possible solutions of how we can increase the grade. I usually have a very simple way of increasing this grade. So the most important thing is, let us have a very conducive discussion around the report forms. Let it not be a very emotive discussion. Most of the time we know that bringing in a report form can be very hard for children, and of late we've heard of cyber cafes where the children go to make new report forms and bring home the report forms that we want. So am I getting the report form that I want? Because if the child knows I only want number one, it's very easy for them nowadays to manufacture a report form that shows they are number one. So as parents, do we want to teach our children to be genuine? Do we want to teach our children to know that they can work towards getting better grades? Do we want to appreciate what they are bringing? And also asking ourselves, what is my role in my child's performance? Because at times we are just blaming and blaming and blaming. So when we come back, as we go for our short break, we always say you can go pick your cup of coffee, you can pick your drink, please don't go away, because I'll be talking about what is a way of improving our children's grade, and how can we make them love themselves even when they are not performing as well as we'd love them to. So see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. I hope you've taken your coffee, your tea, and you're ready for this next segment. Today we are still going on with the children that we're talking about, the 6 to 11 years, the ones who are now in primary school. And we have talked about them being industrious. They are now in school and they are mostly with a teacher. A teacher is a very important person in their lives at this stage. It's a stage where we are having a lot of education, cognition development. We have said is highly developed. The time we said that we are teaching them swala, and we're also teaching them that behavior has consequences. So in talk of behavior having consequences, we will discuss that as we go. We've also talked about exams, and before we went for the break, we were talking about report forms and how they affect us and the kind of talk we should have around these report forms. So what I was discussing is that now we know schools are coming to close, most schools are closing. We expect report forms to be brought home. So as parents, how should we react to these report forms? And as we know, in Kenya, we are having a very big problem of exams. We are having a lack of credibility in our examinations, especially the national exams. And all this is because we have been fighting for our children just to bring in grades. And we all have an ambition of our children going to university and becoming whatever we want them to be. And we've reached a point where we don't care whether they actually passed the exam, we just want them to go there. So is it about us or is it about them? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. And if we have people who don't have credible results, are they going to make good doctors? Are they going to make good engineers? Are they going to be the people you trust to treat your mother? I always say that. Would you want to take your mother to be treated by somebody who is not competent? So any time that we are making our children just pass the exams to go to the university to become doctors, if your mother was to be sick, would you want her to be treated by such a person? So if you ask yourself such a question, I'm sure we'll be able now to relax and tell ourselves, like, let them do the exam, let them pass well, let them go there because they are credible enough to be there. So we were talking about now when the results have come home, if the child has performed well, what should we do? We need to praise the child. We need to encourage them to do even better and appreciate what effort they had put and ask them, how did you manage to get these marks? What did you do? So that they can also be able to actually realize there's something they did that enabled them to get those good grades. And then children should not be compared. Every child is different. Don't tell them, so-and-so is doing much better, yet he's your brother. Or my sister's son is in the same class as you. How come he came position this and you did not come a better position than them? Children should not be compared. Remember, they are all different and they all learn at their own pace. And when we start comparing children, then we start having them not performing very well, and we create a seed of enmity and envy. So why should a child be envious of their brother? So we as parents have to be very sensitive how we handle this report form time. Let us not compare our children. Let us look at what is positive in each child and bring it out. Point it out so that even the others can tell there's something positive so and so is doing, even though I am not doing it, but so and so is doing it, and I have something positive I'm also doing. Nobody is an empty vessel. Everybody has something good that they bring on board. So when we are looking at the report form, let us look at the grades, let us look at the marks, let us compare them to the last term. Did they increase or did they go down? If they went down, what can we do about them? So one thing that I've always found when I'm working with my clients that we have used and we have seen it work is to agree that we are only going to work on adding 10 marks per subject. So if they got 30 in mathematics, we work towards getting 40 next term. If they got 40 in English, we work towards getting 50. So when we add 10 marks in every subject, even the grade changes to the next. grade. So we are not putting too much pressure on this person. We're just telling them we want you to add just 10 marks in each subject. So when you talk about 10 marks, it sounds doable. For them, they feel this I can achieve. Just adding 10 marks, I can do that. So if they add 10 marks in around 8 subjects, that is getting 80 on top of their previous total mark. So immediately you get 80 marks on top of your previous total marks, your grade goes to the next grade. And there is no pressure being put in. And then next time again, we work towards another 10 marks. So it's working towards that 10 marks and then looking at how do I get those 10 marks? What was I doing before that now got me to get these 10 marks? Or what was I not doing well? Is it I was not doing my homework on time? Is it I was not revising on time? Or was I just getting to do the exam without going through the exam? Was I getting time to ask questions? Did I get time to study the subjects that I am weak in? And then our children also have a tendency of only studying the subjects they like. So we encourage them to have a timetable and a timetable that they can follow. So not just make a timetable, because everybody can make a timetable, but can they follow that timetable? So don't make them just have a timetable. Tell them, create a timetable that you're sure you can follow. So they put the timetable and something that they're sure they can follow, and they're working towards adding only 10 marks per subject. So once they realize I'm not under pressure, they will work harder. But when we tell them, I want you to move from grade D to A, it is so unrealistic. So what happens? Somebody just feels it is impossible and they switch off. I want you to move from grade C to A. How does he skip all those grades to get to an A? So we are making it very difficult for them. So let us try and work on a step-based way of doing it so that these people can actually see progress and also analyze what has worked and what did not work. So every time when we are sitting at the end of the term, it's actually a discussion on what has worked, what has not worked, what did you do that helped you, what can we do, what is my role as a parent, what do you want from me. Let the child also tell you what they want from you. Do they want your time? Do they want maybe more silence in the house? Do they want to be given more time to study and less time to do housework? How do we plan around all that? So it's something that we actually sit down and have a serious discussion. On the same note, we're also having madrasa at this time. So are they also performing in the madrasa, or are we also feeling they're having a rough time? And at times we start having a problem of balancing madrasa with school. You start hearing there's no time for madrasa, there's only time for school. Let us not forget that madrasa is a very important aspect of this child, especially when we want to build them to become proper Muslims. Because we don't want just doctors. We want a Muslim doctor. We want a Muslim scientist. We want a Muslim psychologist. We want the Muslim first before what they become. So how do we maneuver around madrasa and around school? How do we make sure that both of them are given the importance that they deserve? And then in all this, we've been talking about behavior having consequence, meaning that we cannot talk about this age without bringing in the aspect of discipline. Most of us, when we hear the word discipline, we think of a cane. And I know all of us, as we are seated there, we have an idea of the last time we were caned and how it went, and maybe what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it. I don't know if we have memories of how we used to be caned. My memories are usually like I got to a point where you'd want to run away from school, because even just doing tables, like you'd have a teacher walking into class and she's saying, say the tables of 5, and before you say a table, you have a stick on your head. So even the table evaporates. You already learned it, but it just can't come. So is that a form of discipline? Definitely it is not. Or where we are all beaten because one person made a mistake, so the whole class gets to be beaten. Or in the house as a parent, where you just punish everybody because one person made a mistake. So how do we come up with discipline measures? And how sure are we that the discipline measures we are using are working and are not counteractive? Because at times we actually think we are disciplining, yet we are making the person more rebellious and hardening them. So it's sad to note that we have seen schools or madrasas where children are really, really beaten. to a point where you start wondering, is this really necessary? Is this what this child needs? Are we really helping this child to get to the next level? Or are we killing that industry in them and creating an inferiority complex in them with this cane? So when do we start beating, and how do we beat? And are there other methods of discipline apart from just beating with a cane? So I know this is something that is very controversial. There are people who believe without the cane, there is no discipline. And without the cane, we cannot get good grades. So the question is every child who has a good grade been gone through a cane? So is it really the only way that we can make our children perform? Is it just using a cane? Do we need to get more creative and work with our children so that we get people who are more wholesome later on in life? So as parents, as teachers, we need to ask ourselves, what are our discipline measures and how can we make them better? So as a parent, in every home, there must be rules. At this age, as a parent, you must create rules with your children, and those rules must be followed through, and these rules should have a consequence. If this is not followed up, this will be the consequence. So if you're using the cane, they know the cane will only be used after certain steps have gone. We have gone through certain steps, they have not been met, that's when the cane will be used. And we use a cane when we are upset. Am I caning this child because I am angry with them at that particular time? So if I'm using that cane at that time, actually what I am doing is satisfying my anger by beating this child and making sure that I've beaten them to the level of where I feel satisfied. So is the crime the same as the punishment? So let us be very careful in how we are doing this punishment. Let us come up with ways that are to help, not to actually kill these children. We hear of children who run away from home, who run away from school, and it's all because our discipline measures are just not correct, they're not accurate. And we do understand that discipline is very important in us achieving any grades. There is no good grade without good discipline. And this discipline will start from home, then get into school, and that is where the child moves on. So as a parent, we must start the discipline measures from our home. So if a home has no rules, a child cannot follow school rules, because they'll say, why are there no rules in my home? Why should I have rules in the school? So as a parent, we need to have school rules. Home rules before they go to school. And this is the age where we know they are transitioning to get to do their national exam. So after the exam, if they don't perform well, what is the problem, or what do we do with such a child? Or does their performance define who I am as a parent? Are we defining ourselves with our children's performance? If my child didn't get a nice grade, should it affect me to a level where I can't face other people? Is that child doing the exam for me? Is the exam for me? Is it for themselves? Have we been teaching our children that they are working towards their own good? It is for themselves, not for me. So it's where we start delinking. Remember I said from the word go, we are letting go of these children. They are very important to us, but we are taking steps towards delinking, because eventually they are going to leave our homes. So we are starting to delink, and we start delinking by even how we define their grades. Are these my grades, or are they their grades? Am I proud because of the grades so they make me feel better about myself? Are they supposed to be doing better so that I can feel better about myself? And if I'm having a problem with feeling better about myself because my child is not doing well, then I need to work on myself, not work on that child. So let us look at how we behave around this time of this child. Remember, we want to build their cognition. We want them to develop to become intellectuals in life. And this is the age where we are writing that intellectual basis into their brains. This is the time when we are showing them how to act like intellectuals, when we are appreciating their intellectual capabilities, and also looking at what else can they also bring on board. We know we have athletes there, we have artists, we have people who have talents. Have we nurtured these talents? Are we even looking at these talents? So let us work with this child in a wholesome manner. Let us encourage them. Let us always remember that they can do better if only we encourage them and we keep showing them that it is doable, that nobody is meant to always be at the bottom and anybody can rise from wherever. We have seen people who have repeated an exam more than twice and they still go ahead and perform very well. I have a very good example of a very bright girl. She actually did her exams and got a B+. And she told me she felt that she didn't perform to what she wanted. So she wanted to repeat the exam and nobody understood her. So she really insisted and she said that she went to the head on a daily basis. I want to repeat, I want to repeat. So eventually they gave her the chance and she repeated. And she got to be the best within the district where she had done the exam. And she got to get a scholarship where now she's studying free of charge outside the country where she's sponsored totally in everything. So what did that make her feel? That I can have done it the first time and I didn't get what I wanted, but I can repeat it and do it again. So let us encourage our children that it's not the end of the world. We can actually repeat and still get better grades. We can actually do something, maybe start from another level and go on to build ourselves. And failing an exam does not mean that we have failed in our lifetimes. So let us work towards making our children feel loved irrespective of whatever grade they are bringing home. Let us love them for who they are, and let us remember that we are obligated to making sure that they succeed in life by supporting them in everything and everything. So be a parent who is supportive, not a parent whom a child fears to bring a report form home to. So let be a home where a report form can come home. We can actually discuss the report form without there being emotive issues, without parents even not talking. You find when it is report form time, some mothers and some fathers will actually even be fighting about it. At times we talk about the brains are from my home, this one's, your sides are not so bright. So let us remember our own school days and see what we did right and bring it in. And let us help our children to succeed so that we have a wholesome Muslim community, inshallah, in future. If we are to use the cane, use it in the right way, and whatever other discipline measures we use, let us use them in the right way. Let us make sure that we bring out children who are very confident, children who have a good self-esteem, children who do not have an inferiority complex about themselves, who have a very strong identity of who they are because of how we have brought them up. So thank you very much for being with us throughout this session. I pray that as we get the report forms today, we will remember all what we have talked about and that we will try and bring in all what we have discussed. And let us pray that next time we meet, we'll have a better results. The day that the results came, everybody can say it was a better experience and all because we actually learned something from today. So we'll meet again next week. And God willing, we'll be now talking about adolescence, which is actually big. A lot of things are happening at that age. And that's an age where we find parents really complaining a lot. So let us meet and discuss that next time. So God willing, see you.
Ayọ̀ mi, mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run tó fi fún mi, yeah. You are a blessing, not a lesson. I can't wait for you to call me daddy. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so lucky that I got you. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún.